Hello, today we are going to be talking about surface area and volume of rectangular prisms and cylinders. So let's do the first one together. You are trying to choose between two fish tanks. The dimensions of the tanks are listed below. Which tank is the largest? So in other words, we're trying to figure out which one has the largest capacity. So how much has more filled in to each tank? So if you're talking about filling up the tank, that is talking about volume. So remember, volume is talking about filling in something all the way to the top, and then surface area is talking about the distance, or not the distance, sorry, So let me restart. So surface area is talking about the amount of space on the outside of the object. Volume is talking about the amount of space on the inside of the object. So in this case, since we were trying to figure out which fish tank would be bigger, we're trying to find the amount of space on the inside. So our volume formula of a rectangular prism is length times width times height, and we are going to be using that 2 times to figure out which one's the biggest from tank 1 and tank 2. So we'll have this one represent tank 1 and this one represent tank 2. Okay, so tank 1 has dimensions of 30, 20, and 15. So to figure out that volume, all that we are going to do is multiply those numbers together. So 30 times 20 times 15 gives us 9,000. And then tank 2 has dimensions of 50 times 10 times 10. And multiply all those numbers, and that gives us a volume of 5,000. So the tank that's the largest would be tank 1. And it is in centimeters, so remember, when you're finding volume, it's going to be cubic centimeters. So tank 1 is the largest. All right, number 2. Shamin bought her best friend a poster for a present and wants to wrap it up for her as a surprise. Shamin rolls the poster up in a cylinder and has just enough wrapping paper to cover the poster at the ends of the cylinder without the wrapping paper overlapping. How much wrapping paper does Shamin have if the cylinder is 60 centimeters long and has a radius of 2 centimeters? So in this case, if we are talking about wrapping up the cylinder around the outside, that is talking about surface area. Surface area is the amount of space on the outside. So if we're using wrapping paper to wrap it up and we want to find out how much wrapping paper she will use, that is surface area. Alright, so the formula that we are using for a cylinder for surface area is SA equals 2 pi RH plus 2 pi R squared. And it doesn't specify, but let's use 3.14 for pi. So when I go to start substitute my numbers in, pi is 3.14. R is radius, and if you notice, the radius of the circle down here is 2, and the height of the cylinder is 60. Okay. Then I have my other part over here, so 2 pi r squared, so 2 times 3.14 times the radius again squared. Alright, so now we just solve it. So I like to do the 2 multiplication parts first because PEMDAS, we always have to multiply before we add. So the first part, we're going to take 2 times 3.14 times 2 times 60, and that gives us 753.6. And we're going to add that to our other multiplication part over here. So 2 squared is 4 times 3.14 times 2 gives us 25.12. So then our last step is to add those two numbers together, and we get 778.72 centimeters. This time, since it's surface area, area is always squared. And that's your answer. All right, number 3, what's the capacity of the truck? So when you're talking about capacity, that's talking about the amount of space on the inside. So if you're talking about the amount of space on the inside, that's volume. And as you guys can see here, we have a rectangular prism. So the volume formula of a rectangular prism is length times width times height. And we're just going to plug in the numbers. All right, so we have a length of 30. We have a width of 12 and a height of 15. So if we want to find the volume of this, all that we are going to do is multiply all those numbers together, and we get a capacity of 5,400 cubic feet. All right, moving on to number 4. Samir's family has decided to purchase an above-ground cylindrical swimming pool for his backyard. The best space that they have for a pool measures 360 centimeters across, and the tallest pool that they can buy is 120 centimeters high. What's the volume of the largest pool that they can buy? And give your answer in cubic centimeters. So they told us that we have a cylindrical swimming pool, so we have a cylinder, and they want us to find the volume of the largest pool that they can buy. So volume is talking about the amount of space on the inside, and since we're talking about a cylinder, we need the volume formula of a cylinder, and that volume formula is pi r squared h. All right, so all we have to do now is just plug in our numbers. So again, pi is going to be represented as 3.14. R means radius, but if you guys notice, 360 is the distance all the way across the pool through the center, so that's not the radius, that's the diameter. So if you guys remember, to get the radius from the diameter, all that we have to do is divide by 2, and you should get 180. So the radius of the pool is 180, we're going to square that, and then the height of it is 120. All right, so remember PEMDAS, we have to square first. So I'm going to take 180 squared, and that gives us 32,400. And then I can multiply that times the 3.14 times the 120. And this is our answer. So we have a volume of 12,208,320 cubic centimeters. All right, moving on to number 5. So number 5, how much material is needed to build the claw machine shown below? So how much material you need, that is talking about the amount of material on the outside. So in this problem here, we're talking about surface area. So we need the surface area formula for, notice how this is a box, so this is a rectangular prism. So the surface area formula of a rectangular prism is SA equals 2LW plus 2HW plus 2LH. And if you guys want down here to go ahead and label these just to help you guys know what number to plug in, you can. So the 3 here could be our L, the 2 can be our W, and the 6 can be our height, so the H. So all I'm going to do now is plug those numbers into my formula and then solve it. So we have 2 times L, L is 3, times W, W is 2, plus 2 times height, which is 6, times width, which is 2, plus 2 times L, which is 3, times H, which is 6. Alright, and remember, thinking of PEMDAS, you must multiply these 3 things first before you start adding them. So 2 times 3 times 2, so 2 times 3 times 2 is 12. Bring down the plus sign. 2 times 6 times 2 is the second part, which is 24. And then the last part, 2 times 3 times 6, which gives us 36. So our last step is to add all of those numbers together, and we get a total surface area of 72 square feet. right, number 6, what's the capacity of the washing machine? So again, capacity is talking about the amount of space on the inside. So this is a rectangular prism here, so we need the volume formula of a rectangular prism, which is just length times width times height. And all that we are going to do is multiply all three of these numbers together. So 5 times 5 times 6. And this is going to tell us what the volume is. So 5 times 5 times 6 gives us a volume of 150 cubic feet. Alright, and then the last one on the front side, Mike wants to put as much juice as possible in his cup. His cup is 7 inches tall and has a 4-inch diameter. How much juice can Mike pour in his cup? So again, if you're talking about filling something up, that's talking about volume. So we need the volume formula of, and this is a cylinder. So the volume formula of a cylinder is pi r squared h. And we're just going to plug in our numbers into the formula and solve. So pi is represented as 3.14. R is radius, so notice how it said the diameter was 4. So to get the radius, cut it in half, and that would be a radius of 2. And the height of the cup is 7. So plug this in our calculator. 2 squared is 4 times 7 times 3.14 gives us a volume of 87.92 cubic inches. So again, the main thing about these, because we are going to give you guys the formulas, you just have to know if it's talking about surface area or volume. Then you just have to look at what shape it's talking about, what solid it's talking about, and then you just have to get the right formula and plug in the numbers. So it does seem like a lot of work, but as long as you guys know those things, you should be okay. Alright, so let's do some more examples. So number 1, Kevin needs to buy some wood to build a box, 12 inches long, 8 inches wide, and 10 inches high. How much wood is needed to build the box? So if you're talking about the material on the outside, again, this is talking about surface area. So we need the surface area formula of a box, which in other words is a rectangular prism. And that formula is 2LW plus 2HW plus 2LH. Again, you can label these if you want. So 12 inches would be your L, 8 inches would be your W, and 10 inches would be your H, your height. And all you're going to do is plug those numbers in. So 2 times L, which is 12, times W, which is 8, plus 2 times H, which is 10, times W, which is 8, plus 2 times L, which is 12, times H, which is 10. Alright, and then once you substitute those numbers in, you can now just solve in your calculator. So again, make sure you multiply the 3 multiplication parts first. So 2 times 12 times 8 is 192. 2 times 10 times 8 is 160. And then 2 times 12 times 10 is 240. And then our last step is to add all 3 of those numbers together, and we get a total surface area of 592 squared inches. Alright, next one. Jenny just bought a new laundry basket in the shape of a cylinder. The basket is 43 centimeters tall and it has a diameter of 33 centimeters. What's the capacity of the laundry basket in cubic centimeters? So again, if it's talking about the capacity, that's talking about how much space can be on the inside. So that is talking about volume. So we need the volume formula of a cylinder here. So that volume formula of a cylinder is pi r squared h. And just start plugging in numbers. So pi is 3.14. Radius, notice how they give us the diameter of 33, so we need to divide that by 2 to get the radius. So our radius would be 16.5, and we're going to square that. And then the height of the basket is 43. Alright, so PEMDAS we have to square first, so 16.5 squared is 272.25. Then we're going to take that times the 43 times the 3.14, And we get an answer here of 36,759.195 cubic centimeters, since we are talking about volume. All right, number 3, suppose Kaya wants to put a bird box below, or paint a bird box below. How much surface does Kaya have to paint if she paints all 6 faces of the bird box? So if you're talking about painting something, that's talking about the amount of space on the outside. So again, that is talking about surface area of a rectangular prism. So we are going to use the formula SA equals 2LW plus 2HW plus 2LH. Then you're just going to plug in your numbers. So 30 will be our L, 12 would be the W, and 20 would be the H. And let's just start substituting. So I'm going to give me some more room here. So L is 30, W is 12, H is 20, W is 12, L is 30, and H is 20. All right, and then now we just solve it. So again, you must do the 3 multiplication parts first because of PEMDAS. So 2 times 30 times 12 is 720. Then the middle part, so 2 times 20 times 12 gives us 480. And then the last part, 12 times 30 times 20 gives us 7,200. All right, so last step is to add all those numbers together. And we get 8,400 squared centimeters. All right, number 4, a metal company makes cylindrical tanks. How many square meters of metal is needed to create the cylinder below? So if you're needing metal, that's talking about the amount of space on the outside. So once again, this is talking about surface area. But now we have a cylinder, so the surface area formula of a cylinder is 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. And then you just plug in your numbers. So pi is 3.14, r is the radius, which is 1.2, h is your height, which is 2.5, plus, and I'm going to run out of room, so I'm going to do it down here. So we have plus 2 times 3.14 times our radius squared. All right, so let's do the first multiplication part first. So 2 times 3.14 times 1.2 times 2.5 gives us 18.84. Then we are going to add the second part. So we have 1.2 squared. And then we're going to take that times 2 times 3.14, and that gives us 9.0432. And then the last step is to add those two numbers together, and we get 27.8832 meters squared because it's surface area. All right, moving on to number 5. Alexia's bathroom has a tub in the shape of a rectangular prism. How many cubic inches of water can it hold? So talking about the inside, that's talking about volume. So our volume formula is just length times width times height. It says that it has a length of 72 times a width of 20 a width of 32 times the height of 20. And we're just going to multiply all those numbers together. So 72 times 32 times 20 gives us 46,080 cubic inches. Okay, number 6. So Oscar's making a play block for his baby sister by gluing fabric over the entire surface of a foam block. How much fabric will he need? So if he's gluing fabric on, that's talking about the amount of space on the outside. So this is talking about surface area. And remember, the surface area formula of a rectangular prism is 2LW plus 2HW plus 2LH. And again, if you like to label these, please feel free to do so, but you don't have to. It just makes it easier whenever you go to start substituting your numbers into the formula. So when I do that, I get 2 times 6.1 times 2.5 plus 2 times 2.3 times 2.5 plus 2 times 6.1 times 2.3. Alright, and now I'm just going to multiply those three sets. So I have 2 times 6.1 times 2.5, and that gives me 30.5, plus 2 times 2.3 times 2.5, and that gives me 11.5, plus 2 times 6.1 times 2.3 gives me 28.06. And then the last step is to add all of those numbers together, and we get a total of 70.06 squared inches. Alright guys, and then the last one, so a company wanted to, or has decided which juice container is most cost effective based on the container that they use with the least amount of material to make. Both containers hold the same capacity, so which container should the company use? So if they're trying to figure out which one would be the most cost effective based on the material, that means that we need to find the surface area of the cylinder, and then we need to find the surface area of the rectangular prism. So let's do the cylinder first. So that is 2 pi RH plus 2 pi r squared. And again, I'm just going to start plugging in my numbers, guys. Pi is 3.14, looks like it has a radius of 5 and a height of 9.55. And then we're just going to solve it. So 2 times 3.14 times 5 times that 9.55 is 299.87, plus your second part over here, which is 157, and add those two numbers together, and that gives us a surface area of 456.87. So this was the surface area of the cylinder. So now let's find the surface area of the rectangular prism. And that has a surface area formula of 2LW plus 2HW plus 2LH. And now we're just going to start plugging in these numbers. So 15 is the L, 5 is the W, and 10 is the H. And guys, as you know, you can pause this video at any time if I'm going too fast for you and you need time catching up writing down the notes. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and start multiplying. So this would be 150 plus 100 plus 300. And then I'm going to add all those numbers together, and I get 550 squared centimeters. So based on my two answers, which one is going to cost them the less because it's the smallest surface area? And that is going to be the cylinder, because the rectangular prism had a surface area of 550. The cylinder had a surface area of 456.87. So the cylinder is going to be the most cost effective for them. Alright, so I know that was a lot of information. So again, as long as you guys are reading the question and you guys are understanding if it's talking about the outside of the shape, so like wrapping paper, the material of something, that's talking about surface area. So then you'll just need to find the surface area formula of the cylinder or the rectangular prism. And then if it's talking about filling in something, so filling up something, the capacity of something, that's talking about volume. So then you'll just need to find the volume formula of the cylinder or the rectangular prism. And then from there, guys, it's just plugging in your numbers and using your calculator to solve. So that's it for today's lesson. So just let your guys' teacher know if you have any questions.